Hey everyone, John Doyle from OptixEQ. Today I want to take a look at the Sam Davis, who's going to be run tomorrow at Tampa Bay Downs. It's a prep for the Tampa Bay Derby, I guess, and also the Kentucky Derby. You can qualify with some points on this race. So we're going to take a look at it. It's an interesting race. I think there's value in this race. And so let's just dig in. I'm going to look at the plot first. You see it there. We have both the standard and the surface and distance plots. It's tricky. You can see that a couple of things here to note is the one thing is the contention light, speed rating's relatively average, contention's average. The things I'll note here is look like the 3-horse Patriot Spirit looks like kind of the fastest horse, but has a tendency to, relative to this field, might be coming back to the field. So he's got probably the most speed to the second call. You can see there. It's like the highest up on there. But there's other speed in the race. You got the 8, the 9. These are the horses that will be kind of contending for the lead. See the early pace, at least from a run style perspective. The horses that look kind of good from a stalking perspective, they look like kind of the 7 and the 5. Look like horses that can kind of maybe sit and finish. My concerns about the 9, who will get some money, and the 10 is that the post position. They're going to be drawn outside. They're going to have to be used a little bit, especially with the inside speed of the 3. So they're going to have to get used a little bit there. As far as closers are concerned, the 4, 6, and 11 look like the closers. But when you get over to surface and distance, the 6 kind of pops out. He's an interesting character. He's going to get played, but basically he's a grass horse so far that we've seen. So maybe he gets a resurgence on the turf. I mean on the dirt. Switch to dirt. Don't know. 4 little square here, but there's some reasons for that. We'll talk about that when I get to the grid. And then the 11 is kind of a deep closer, at least on surface and distance. That's just not a typical good running style for this track, and I'll show you that in a second here. We'll look at that. But the other thing I just want to note before that is the 1 and the 12 are kind of new to this surface and distance. So that's another question mark. Okay. All right. Let me clear this out here. We'll look at. Let's look at over here. Let's go to summary. And summary kind of gives you the main players in terms of categories, speed, plot, which is the pace, and class. So I'm just going to click on plot because I just want to look statistically at this distance and surface at Tampa. Like, how do the plots and squares kind of match up statistically? Which ones do better and whatever. And so far, you can kind of see that both the 5 and the 7 have an edge, pretty significant. You can just hover over, you'll see a number. See that number like above like 1.5, that's pretty good. They seem to have the edge. And those are the ones I said look like kind of horses that can maybe stalk and pounce. So plot-wise, they look good. The big negative is the 6, and that, again, goes to, you'll see, even though this horse will probably be one of the choices, is that this horse has been doing most of the running on turf, I'm sorry. So this is a surface change. It's interesting. Okay, so basically 5 and 7 look good from a plot perspective. 3's the most speed. Don't know if he can kind of hold and stick. For the closer's perspective, 4 looks pretty good. And yeah, that's the plot. Let's go to the grid. Let's look at that. And then I'm going to eventually get to focus, where I can show you kind of like my evaluation of the race. So let's start with the number 1 horse, El Principal. And he just looks too slow. And you can see on speed figures, he's well below. He just looks too slow. But there's some things I like about this horse. So if you're going to maybe consider this horse for superfecta or something, he had it better than looked out for it last time in the stakes race. So stakes class-wise, he kind of fits. His plot isn't that terrible. So if he can get back to one of his better races, and improve from there, it's a lot of ifs, but I wouldn't consider this horse anything other than superfecta at a monster price, just kind of inclusion sort of thing. Let me just move this up. Okay, we go to the number 2. Tireless. This horse, just broke his maiden, so this is a major class class bump up. It is Fletcher. Horse is kind of improving, but I don't know. This is a big move, especially the fact that early on they thought this horse, I guess, was a turf horse. His early races were on turf. Then he got off the turf race that he ran well in, so they switched to the dirt. The maiden race was here, Tampa, so it's not always the strongest races. So I think this horse has got his work cut out for him. Number 3 is Patriot Spirit. We talked about him in the plot. Looks like he's got a lot of speed. My concerns here, right, is the first time he went a route lone, he didn't finish. Now, that race, pace-wise, was just nuclear. In fact, if you look at all his pace figures, I'm going to move all the way over to the right. You can see he kind of like runs really fast early and kind of peters out. You can see his comparative is like now. His last race was an improvement from a late pace perspective. So maybe, this is a horse that maybe's got some upside. Maybe you want to consider this horse for underneath, especially if you can get a better price than that 6-1. So this horse definitely probably has the most speed in the race. So it'd be interesting to see how far he can take him. Number 4 is Crazy Mason. I thought this horse was mildly interesting. This horse kind of ran really fast as a 2-year-old. Dual burst at Saratoga. Those maiden races are really good. Came back in the Sapling, which was a major key race, and just, I don't know if it was the distance or whatever. I wasn't ready for this. It was over his head at the time, but this came back a very strong race. So I wouldn't hold that much against him. And this kind of hurts, I think, some of his plots and stuff. And then you see that surface distance plot. If you remember, it was a little square. I think this race kind of hurts that. So I kind of maybe give some forgiveness. I think he might be better than that. Then he kind of gets into the mud and he gets kicked back. He still runs an improved effort, not bad at Delaware. And then he wins the inaugural over this track, a good thing, but a good speed figure. They didn't win. He finishes a good second, and the projection is stretch this horse out. And they do the next time, and he wins at Tampa. And he runs a slower figure, but you see this close? This horse really finished up, and you can see it is reflected in his late pace number, 108. This horse did some major running late. So it was kind of a slow pace. He was in a pocket. He had to be scrubbed down a little bit. Well, once he got going, there was kind of like no stopping him. So I think this horse is a contender. And, I think he could lay like mid-pack, maybe even closer, and can kick home. So he's a contender for me. The 5 question going to be about him is going to be a first time 2 turns. Kind of petered out a little bit in this. He was bet, really well in the Mucho Macho. Now that race, if you look at the other comment here, it says opted to start, launched wide, blah, 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 blah. So he gradually faded in deep stretch. And the race was slower than the Philly version of this. So I don't know how strong this race was. So he's going to get another bump in class. 2 turns is a question mark. I could see him for underneath, but I'm just a little bit concerned about him on the win end. Just it might be a little bit too much. The 6, a Gate Road. This is the horse that I told you, really grass. Even his debut was supposed to be on the grass, and it got taken off. I just guessed that last race, they're expecting the win on the turf. They're trying something for new time. In fact, they were pointing to the Kitten's Joy, and they decided here instead. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's not a horse. It's interesting to see Ortiz, who was on the 5, take this mount, Jose Ortiz. But yeah, he could win, but it's not going to be price worthy, in my opinion. Copper Tax is the other, I think, win contender in here. This horse just did nothing but win early on. Now he was running in Delaware and Laurel and stuff. Those were good races. I mean, he's running in the 90s and so forth. Got into the Remsen and didn't run a lick, but that race was so odd, and the race has come back so strong in terms of key races. I mean, the horses that come out of that race have done phenomenal. So I just think that this might be a class drop for him. If he can get back to some of his better efforts, he's an obvious contender, and to me, should be the favorite in this race. But we'll see. So that's Copper Tax. Number 8, Ever Do It. too slow, lots of things, slow, class, and all the rest on that horse. The 9, Change of Command. This horse will take money, and I'm just not too sure. 1, Show Tactics was still green in his 4th race. You could see that that was a major improvement at the end of the year. It was over at Gulfstream. It was going 7 furlongs though, so this horse is first try at 2 turns was a good one, but it was a hard race. He's going to move up, and he's going to be caught wide. That's my concern. Post 9. If there's no scratches inside of him, this is a tough post to win from at Tampa, especially like a speed horse like this. I think he may get used. Now he could maybe finish in the number, the money, but I don't know. He's going to be kind of a short price. And interesting to see again is another horse that Jose Ortiz took off. So now who knows? I mean, I can't read these, but it's just interesting to see that he's got Gaffalon is a very good alternative replacement, but just interesting to see Jose Ortiz ended up on the 6. The number 10 was Saratoga. It's kind of got the same issues as the 9, and it's probably headed kind of not in the same direction as the 9 in terms of being wide and trying to press the pace. So I mean, just think of it value wise there. The 11, another horse that kind of like was on this turf thing, and then came up, run poorly in the Breeders' Cup, switched him back to dirt. Yeah, he slow out of the gate, made a move. Maybe if he can improve from that somewhat, but again, just gonna have to run a lot faster. And then the number 12 is the Elysian Meadows. This horse is getting, it's going to get tested for class big time. It's been in New York State breds. He's run well. Just, he's going to get 2 turns from a deep post, and up in class. So, a lot of things to overcome. So let's go to the focus report. Let me just get out this. This is kind of the way I kind of see the race based on looking at the plot, the notes, and so forth. El Principo, I got him at 35-1. That's below 50-1. So I just think this horse, not a win contender, but maybe can get into the super, best. Tireless, not a win contender. I think he's much higher than the odds. We have him there in the morning line. Again, I'm comparing this to the morning line, so as the post time comes, you want to look at. The blue is the odds that I think the horse is fair value on. Patriot Spirit, 12-1. Just think that's a horse that more can, hit more the underneath. And I just want to go through. And the thing I want to do is go down to the bottom here and show you like the comparison between the focused odds and the morning line. Now, again, the morning line will change, so keep that in mind. But just based on this, my edge is with the 7 as a win contender. Copper Tax, because he's 50% better than the morning line, and Crazy Mason. Those are the 2 I talked about. So those, to me, from a win end, have an edge. Horse from like an Exacta who might have an edge is the 5. Talked about him and his plot. I mentioned the 3 maybe being able to hold on because he's the fastest horse as his try. Talked about the super. So this is kind of the way I see this race. If I'm betting horizontally, I'm making the 4 and 7 A's. They'll be my horses in a backup on the well, I'm not backing up on the 6. I need to change this. Yeah, 6 should not be a B. I was kind of going through this a couple of times. So I'm going to change it right here in front of you so you can see it. Okay, that's changed. I'll go back here and just refresh this baby. Okay, so 4 and 7 of my A's. Those are the horses I'm going to go horizontally. They'll be my keys in exotic wagers. So might consider an exacta box with 4-7, and then maybe an exacta with 4-7 over 5. So especially if the 6 ends up the favorite or the 9 ends up the favorite, I think we'll have an edge with the 4 and 7. But that's it. That's John Doyle from Optics, and that's my assessment of the Sam Davis to be run Saturday at Tampa Bay Downs. Good luck, everyone, and check us out at OptixEQ.com and also at OptixEQ on Twitter or X now. Thanks for listening.